I have a funny story to tell. This is why you don't start arguments on the internet when you don't know who you're talking to, because you just might get wrecked. So yesterday I was on a finance forum and I saw this post from this guy, and he said that single stocks can't beat, about 12% return a year. And I saw that comment and I just thought, well, that's just wrong. What is this guy talking about? So I called him out on it and I said, I think you have this confused with the major US indexes, like if they're not adjusted for inflation, yeah, that's true, but single stocks can absolutely beat 12%. What in the world are you talking about? And then he comes back at me and he says, if you pick the average stock, then it's not gonna beat that 12% annual return. And I said, well, what do you mean average stock? What does that mean? Why would I buy an average stock? There's plenty of stocks. If you know how to pick stocks, you could absolutely find a single stock that beats the market or beats his 12%, whatever percent he quoted. So this guy comes back at me and he goes on this long diatribe and he gives me all these credentials. He's trying to intimidate me. So he says, I've been an investor for 30 some odd years, like 34 years. I used to be a broker on Wall Street for 24 years. I'm going by memory here because he actually ended up deleting his post, which is funny. And he currently works for the US Department of Commerce. So he thought that he could just say all these things and win this argument with me and, just try to intimidate me. And I just thought, okay, well, I'll play ball with this guy. And, I told him, well, there's absolutely stocks that can beat the market. Apple stock has done over the past 15 years an average annual return of over 26%. So that beats the market. And he said, well, he knew that I like MicroStrategy, and I told him, well, that's beating the market. I think it's going to continue to beat the market. Over the next decade, I think it will. That's just my opinion. I'm not being arrogant about it. That's just my belief. And he said, well, there's just no way you can do it. You can't beat the market. Warren Buffett, you're not going to beat Warren Buffett, and the large majority of even the professionals and the fund managers, they can't beat the market. So what makes you think you can do it? And I told him, well, number one, never tie yourself. I hate when people do this. They get into these discussions and they tie themselves to some billionaire like Warren Buffett, and they think because they adopted, his style of investing, that it just makes them right all the time. Let me explain something to you, okay? Warren Buffett made his money back in the 70s and 80s. He was already wealthy at that point. When you have that kind of money, you have billions of dollars. You could, you can make just off the dividends and interest alone, you can make millions of dollars a year. I mean, it's not, anyone could do it. It's not that difficult. But in today's stock market, things have changed. Like I've always said, this is not your daddy's stock market. The market we have today is different than what it was back in the 70s and 80s. So you can't just say, well, this is how Warren Buffett does it, and this is how it should be done, and there's no other way to do it. Well, number one, that's not true. There's people that have outperformed Warren Buffett. Eddie Elfbein has outperformed Berkshire Hathaway for the past few years. So, and I personally know people that have outperformed the market. I'm on a Discord with guys who work in finance, and they're financial advisors, and I've seen their portfolio, I've seen their returns. And they're not even 40 years old, man, and they're beating the market. So don't tell me you can't beat the market and that it can't be done. Okay, and if you want to invest like Warren Buffett, you could buy Berkshire Hathaway stock. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But yeah, like I said, if you want to beat the market, if you pick the right stocks, you can absolutely beat the market. If you short at the right time, if you trade options at the right time, you can absolutely beat the market. Don't tell me you can't do it. So this guy, he told me, he challenged me. He said, I bet you all this money. I don't know, is some ridiculous amount. Like, he wanted to bet like $20,000 that his portfolio of, what do you have, VU, the Qs, Devo, and I think JEPI, JEPI. And he said, you can take your whatever's in your portfolio, and over the next 3 years, if you beat me, I'm going to pay you this money. And I said, it's already beaten your portfolio. A covered call fund has beaten the market and has beaten your portfolio, sir. It's already beaten it, Mr. Big Shot Wall Street. You've already lost the bet. And do I think it's going to continue? Yeah, of course I do. You think I'm going to invest in something if I don't think it's going to continue to do well? Of course I think it's going to continue to beat the market. And then I showed him the chart of, and like, MSTY, a covered call ETF, it is not just like edging out the S&P, like it is crushing it. It's not even close. Not even close. And I told the guy, I said, hey, you can get mad about it all you want, but a fact is a fact, and the data speaks for itself. And all your credentials don't make you right. And oh, by the way, Warren Buffett, he uses options in his strategy, and he buys single company stock. And in fact, the aforementioned Apple, he's sold a lot off, recently, but he's had a lot of Apple stock. He buys single company stock. How the hell do you think he does so well? Like, he knows how to pick stocks. And you're no Warren Buffett, sir. And don't tell me that people can't beat the market. So anyway, I went in, logged in again this morning, and all of his comments were deleted because I completely destroyed him and made him look stupid. And I'm not being arrogant about it. It's just, he's being arrogant, and he thinks that, that you can't argue with him because of his credentials, and he just thinks he knows everything, and he thinks he's like Warren Buffett 2.0, and it's like, no, dude, you're not. You're not, okay? And don't tell me that I can't do what myself and others are already doing. And we have the facts to back it up. I don't think it's being arrogant, to state that. If you know something is a fact, you can defend it. And I'm going to call it out. If you say something that's just straight up wrong, I don't care if you work on Wall Street and work for the U.S. government, the Department of Commerce. I don't care. If you say something wrong, I'm calling you out. And I'm going to make you look stupid.